The Big Lap of Australia is a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. We've spent the last 3.5 years living in this van, travelling 80,000 kilometres on our Australia road trip. We've seen some of the most iconic places in the country, like Uluru, tropical North Queensland, Kakadu, Broome, Esperance, the Great Ocean Road and the Blue Mountains. But we've also really enjoyed some of the lesser known places, those places in between the tourist hotspots, and in this video we'd like to share our top 10 highlights of our Big Lap of Australia. It would be easy to make a video about all of the tourist hotspots, but we want to share with you some of the places that you might not have heard of, so you can consider adding them to your Big Lap itinerary, or at least just see them through our eyes. We're often asked where was our favourite place on our Big Lap of Australia, and we always really struggle to answer that question. These are some that you might never have heard of, and some of them might even surprise you. We did an anti-clockwise loop starting in Brisbane, so we're going to present this top 10 in the order that we visited them. There's no ranking in this list. For most people, driving north in Queensland means heading straight up the Bruce Highway to the beautiful tropical North Queensland. We get it. We love spending time around the beaches and the Daintree rainforest. But doing this means missing out on some hidden gems. Agnes Water and 1770 is an hour off the Bruce Highway between Bundaberg and Gladstone. We spent just over a week in the area and absolutely loved it. This is where you find the last surf beaches before the Great Barrier Reef. Nigel did a surf lesson here. Not that successfully. We also did some beautiful hikes like the Red Rock Trail and the short but impressive Paperbark Forest Walk. We've come now to walk the infamous Paperbark Trail. So I've just parked up, and this is just a short little walk. It is so beautiful in here. You know, you hear about these places and there's so much hype and you think it can never be that good. This is that good. What did you just call it?
The Enchanted Forest.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, like the butterflies fluttering through. It's, you know, like a niche environment, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
We also went down this sandy four-wheel drive track to spend a couple of days on the deserted beaches of Urrumbula National Park. Just amazing. We also enjoyed one of the best sunsets we've ever seen. We loved it so much here we didn't want to leave. Speaking of sunsets, let's show you Caramba. Caramba is up on the Gulf of Carpentaria in remote outback, far northwest Queensland. It's not somewhere that was on our wish list to go to, except that Nigel's cousin manages the Sunset Tavern up there and he raved about the place, so we thought, well, why not? On the way we drove along narrow outback roads with hundreds of termite mounds. We stopped off in Normanton where we saw a replica of the largest crocodile ever caught. 8.63 metres long and supposedly would weigh about 2 tonne. Just looking at it there doesn't give you much of an idea, so we're going to show you a photo of Nigel and I with the crocodile. Caramba is primarily a fishing town, so Nigel went out on a fishing charter and yep, he got a fish. Caramba is known for its sunsets. Good evening everyone. So we are here in Caramba. Caramba is on the Gulf of Carpentaria, right up in the northern part of Queensland, and we are actually on a beach at the moment facing west, which means we're going to see an incredible sunset. So this is actually our second night here. Last night we spent the evening at it's called the Sunset Tavern in town, but today we've decided just to come along the beach and we're just going to sit in our chairs and watch the sunset. So it's going to be very bright, but I'll turn and you can see further up the beach, that's looking back towards the tavern, but there's a whole lot of other people sitting there. This sunset was an absolute cracker. Most people who visit Central Australia head straight to Uluru, Kings Canyon or the West Macdonnell Ranges. But our first stop was the East Macdonnell Ranges, and not only was this a great introduction to the Red Centre, we enjoyed that it was much less crowded than all the main attractions. We booked for 2 nights and ended up staying an extra 3. We loved it that much. We stayed at the Trafina Gorge campsite, which is centrally located near some of the best walks. So it's really nice campsite here. There's a little drop toilet there, no showers. There is running water. There's a few taps around. There are fireplaces here, but oddly not every campsite has one. So last night we were sitting over at this communal fireplace. First we were a bit disappointed we didn't have our own fireplace, but in the event it turned out really well because we had some really interesting people to chat to. There are walks for all abilities here, even a gentle stroll in the gorge where you can see some Indigenous art.
We're in the Red Centre, but it's as cold as a witch's tit.
I know, hands up who thought it was supposed to be hot in Central Australia.
Yeah, it's actually nice.
I think we did 3 hikes while we were staying out here, but our favourite was the Chain of Ponds hike, which leads from the nearby John Hayes waterhole. By far, our favourite city in Australia is Darwin. Now, we're not city people. We'd much prefer to be out enjoying nature. But there's just something about Darwin. It keeps drawing us back. We've been there 3 times in the last 3 years, and I'd happily go back there again tomorrow. Of course, there's amazing history, culture, and art in Darwin, but it's the vibe of Darwin that we really love. We always hire electric scooters to get around, and we love checking out the amazing street art, as they add more each year in the Darwin Street Art Festival. There's some really cool funky bars and restaurants in town. And then there's the sunset markets at Mindle Beach. They're an institution. You can eat on the lawn or take your food down to the beach and join the crowds clapping when the sun sets. And everyone's clapping for the sunset. Awesome. It's gone. When you think of outback Australia, you think of red dirt, and nowhere is the dirt redder than in the Pilra. It's the presence of iron oxide in the ground that makes the surface dirt so red. This area is home to over 20 iron ore mines. We were based in Newman for a couple of months while Nigel was on a flying contract. As a nature lover, it's easy to hate on the mines, but of course, we also appreciate how important mining is for the Australian economy. On Nigel's days off, we got to go exploring, and having a 4x4 van meant we could explore and camp in some really epic places. From driving along knee-high rivers to Calvin Pool, exploring pristine swimming holes at 3 pools and Wheelie Wally. This is just like incredible, you know, as we keep exploring here, we keep finding better and better things and places. The water is so clear.
This is what exploring is all about, because we really didn't know much about this place.
And even checking out Indigenous rock carvings at Wannamana Gorge. We absolutely loved spending time in the Pilra. Most people will visit Karijini National Park, which we agree is absolutely stunning with its beautiful gorges and excellent hiking. But we really think it's worthwhile heading inland and exploring more of the Pilra. If you want to go exploring in this area, head into the Visitor Centre at Newman for all the local information and maps. Nestled between Perth and Margaret River is a beautiful section of coastline. While the region is better known for its wineries, and a lot of travellers will head straight from Margaret River, there's so much to explore in this area. Rock pools, cliffs, and some of the best surf in the country. We love the town of Yallingup and the coastal area around here, but if you want to avoid the crowds, you'll need to come early to visit places like the Injured Up Spa or the aquarium, but they're so worth it. When I was reflecting on our time in South Australia and trying to come up with some top places there, to be honest, I really struggled. We loved the whole state that much, so I'm putting the whole state of South Australia in here. This is one of those places, South Australia, we didn't really think about it too much and plan too much before we went there. We just thought it was somewhere that we would kind of pass through. Boy, were we wrong. We now call South Australia the underrated state. We have a good friend who we wanted to visit that lives in the Barossa. I wanted to see Coober Pedy. Nigel wanted to eat some oysters at Coffin Bay. But other than that, we didn't really have any plans. But wow, we spent a couple of months here and we absolutely loved it. We actually even detoured back once we'd got to Victoria because for a few reasons we had to miss out on the Flinders Ranges while we were there. We began our journey into South Australia crossing the Nullarbor from WA. We spent a couple of nights on the Bunda Cliffs overlooking the Great Australian Bight. We were very lucky to have great weather. It was still enough to fly the drone. Apparently very often it's blowing a gale up here. It's such a magical spot, standing there on the edge of Australia, knowing the next land isn't until Antarctica. Sadly, a lot of the free camping along the Bunda Cliffs was closed last September, as the edge of the cliffs are quite unstable. And you can see here this crack. Like that bit's just about to tumble, and this is going to be the next bit to go. 100 odd feet down these cliffs. And this is where we're camped. It's so cool. We visited the Eyre Peninsula and spent a few rainy days down on the Fleurieu Peninsula, but what we really loved about South Australia was the outback. After being stuck in a very muddy Coober Pedy for 9 days, we drove up to Oodnadatta and down the famed Oodnadatta Track. The Oodnadatta Track is one of the great off-road adventures in Australia. In good weather, this unsealed road is drivable by any capable vehicle, but it was only open to four-wheel drives when we went through. Seeing the ruins of the Garn Railway and camping at Kurtamerka Siding was a definite highlight. Our other big highlight of South Australia was the Flinders Ranges. It's just so ruggedly beautiful here. Again, just not what we expected. Being such a small state, we didn't spend a lot of time travelling in Victoria, although of course we hit the highlights like the Great Ocean Road and Wilson's Prom. But my highlight is the little visited Lerderderg State Park, which is only an hour away from Melbourne. I actually grew up in Victoria and it was just great to come back and visit some of the places that I used to hang out when I was a kid. I have such fond memories of riding my horse through the Lerderderg State Park. And there's one of the toughest hikes we've done here in the park.
Hey, down there.
Very steep. There's also a fun gravel road through a section of the park and a whole lot of free camping in here. Not sure I'd tow a caravan through though, but it's an awesome drive, and you end up near Mount Blackwood, which has a great pub. We thought 6 weeks would be enough time for Tassie, but boy, were we wrong. It's really only a small state. We thought, oh, there can't be that much. But in actual fact, we were really rushed for the 6 weeks that we were there. And we know people that have done it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. If we were to give you any advice about travelling in Tasmania, we'd say go for 8 or 9 weeks or longer if you can. I mean, obviously you can hit all the hotspots in 2 to 4 weeks, but if you really want to get a feel for the island, you need to spend quite a bit of time there. And there's so much to see there. It's just amazing.
This is Tasmania.
Woohoo! Most people who go to Tasmania concentrate on the eastern half of the state, visiting Hobart and Port Arthur, Freycinet National Park, the Bay of Fires, and include a trip to Cradle Mountain. While we loved all those spots, our favourite part of Tasmania was the wild west coast. The wilderness here is like nowhere else in the country, with dense rainforests, incredibly tall trees, majestical waterfalls, and a rich convict history that rivals that of Port Arthur. We spent almost a week in Strahan and really got a feel for this part of Tassie. The untouched beauty of the wilderness, the town and the warm people made this somewhere we'll definitely come back to. And not to mention, we found somewhere we can drive down onto the beach. Oh my God, look at this.
Pretty epic location, eh?
Look at where we are. How good is it?
It's pretty wicked.
We're parked up on the beach. Hell's Gate's just down there.
Happy days.
Yeah.
You know what would make it? If I could...
I thought you were going to say cold beer.
Well, we do have one.
I know.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that. Great minds think alike, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be really honest here. I struggled to find a highlight from New South Wales. Now, that's not to say that there's nothing good there. There is. There's plenty of cool stuff there. I mean, look at the Blue Mountains, for example. I think the reason is because we kind of didn't spend a lot of time there. So we actually went first to New South Wales back at the very beginning of our trip in February of 2021. We went down into New South Wales because we had an event to go to in the Kosciuszko National Park. We had planned to do a whole lot of riding and hiking, and then on the second day of our trip, Nigel had a pretty bad mountain bike accident and injured his leg. I got that. So the one place that we really wanted to go back to was Kosciuszko National Park, and we managed to do that on the way back from Victoria. When we drove through here in early 2021, we were saddened to see the devastation from the bushfires in the 2019-2020 summer, but driving back through in April 2024, we were glad to see that the bush has begun to regenerate. A lot of people come to Kosciuszko to visit Thredbo or Jindabyne. We were happy to pass through those towns and enjoy the wilderness. We stopped off on the banks of the Murray River where Nigel had a swim. I still don't know what was funnier, watching him dither around because the water was so cold.
Much later. Much later.
Or getting sprung doing his Monty Python dance when he got out.
cold, is it?
Of course, skiing here is popular in the winter, but in the summer months, the Thredbo Valley Trail is an amazing experience. The section between Thredbo and Ngarigo is only 10 kilometres and rated green for easy. You'll cross over several bridges over the Snowy River, and it's a great trail for families. But if you're a hardcore mountain biker, you can continue on the more difficult trail all the way to Jindabyne. Oh, and if you don't have your own bike, you can hire one, or even an e-bike here. So there you have it, 10 of the best places that we visited on our big lap of Australia. If you want to see more of this journey, make sure you go and check out this playlist and come back next week when we're going to be talking about the 10 worst parts of our big lap of Australia. That's it for this time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.